Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Ireland officially assumes the presidency of the Council of the European Union on July 1st, taking responsibility for chairing some of the bloc's most important negotiations over the coming months, with debates over the EU's next 7-year budget, emissions policy, defense and Ukraine all gathering pace. The presidency begins at a time when reaching agreement across the bloc will be a key test. What all this means for Europe, we're now joined by Judit Lantai, democracy and EU affairs expert. Good to have you with us. Welcome. Let's jump right into it. The presidency itself, just give us your take quickly. How effective a mechanism is this and all across the different institutions of the EU? And what would success look like after 6 months of Ireland at the helm?
Well, that's already a bit asked, and good morning. Thank you for having me here with you today. It's still definitely a relevant institution in the EU. It defines a lot where a political animal such as the EU puts its focus for 6 months, and the Council presidency dictates exactly that. So I would say it matters a lot what Ireland chooses to propose and prioritizes. But of course, it's meant to be an honest broker. So it doesn't mean that the national interest of Ireland will be a centerpiece. And it would be successful if Ireland really delivers on moving forward the MFF negotiations, if it focuses or continues to focus on the security aspects of the European Union, and if it really manages to be an honest broker in competitiveness. And that is one of the biggest questions I would have about this presidency, tied to how it's going to be looking into digital policies. And enlargement, of course, should not be left out as well.
As you said, it's a political beast, the machinery of the EU. We don't have time to explain it all, but you mentioned some interesting points there as well. Honest broker, that's what Ireland is trying to tout here. But at the same time, already with some things you mentioned there already, with tech, for instance. A lot of American big tech companies are based in Ireland. So can it really be honest in that regard? And also with defense, I'll press you on that as well. A military neutral country, but the EU is spending and focused a lot more on defense. So can we get an honest broker in those focus areas?
Right, so I'm going to start indeed with big tech companies and their relation to Ireland. I looked up some data before I was coming here today, and in 2025, I believe, Ireland received 87% of its tax income from foreign multinationals. And a lot of these foreign multinationals are, in fact, in the area of tech. Meanwhile, the European Union is trying to move into the area of sovereignty in this and trying to incentivize also tech innovation and production also in Europe. So there, I'm not entirely sure Ireland can claim to be an honest broker, but of course, every council presidency tries to do that regardless of their national interests. So let's see how well they will fare. And on your question on defense, nowadays we talk a lot about more military for Europe, but what does more mean? There's a lot of different competing visions on that. Some voices really would like to have a true European army. Some are moving towards more new Security Council format, maybe with 7 countries, 9 countries, potentially even involving non-EU states in that. So let's see which vision will win, and if Ireland wishes to do so as a really recognized country, as a peace builder, or someone less militarily focused, they could indeed be this honest broker who can facilitate the discussion between these different visions and help Europe choose the way forward. And facilitating discussion, that's a big one in terms of what a presidency, rotating presidency every 6 months has to do. One of those big ones on the table will be the new budget. You already alluded to that earlier. 2 trillion euros. Some countries are not happy with that. It's too much. How successful do you think the presidency will be in guiding those discussions? Will we have a budget by the end of those 6 months? Well, I think Ireland is lucky in that they don't have to have the final agreement. It's still the phase where it's going to be more on the political level, and often this is delayed. It happened also in the previous cycle. So they will not be seen as unsuccessful necessarily if they don't manage. But indeed, there's a lot of questions about the new budget. The EU is trying to create this new budget on the brink of enlargement, when, of course, the budget will be impacted by that as well, with multiple crises at the same level. But I will also say that one of the promising aspects of this budget is that new EU-owned resources would be introduced. Of course, there's a discussion on that also from the member state side. Some of them would wish to have less or not in the areas that they feel harms their own national interest. And meanwhile, actually, the European Parliament would have more own resources even beyond these 5. So a success would be to find some of these own resources, at least, that we can also introduce that would help the EU budget to really deliver for the Union.
Mm-hmm. Also, you mentioned it, I think, at the beginning, also enlargement. I mean, we could sort of claim with what happened in the last 6 months, looking at that first cluster, this first step in accession for Ukraine and Moldova. I guess you could give that impartial fact to the Cypriots. But at the same time, where are we going with enlargement now? What kind of tangibles do you think will happen? More chapters open, more discussions moving forward in any way with Ukraine, Moldova, and the other potential members?
Right. So in the case of Montenegro that I would start with, which is the most likely front runner at the moment for enlargement, they really wanted to close all of the chapters by the end of this year, which would fall under still the Irish presidency. Of course, this is yet to be seen if they manage. It would require a lot of fast-tracked reform processes in the country that might not be delivered, but we know that also Ireland is very committed and publicly repeats moving forward the enlargement agenda. So I would trust that they are doing their utmost best to bring Montenegro also on board. And when it comes to Ukraine and Moldova, we've seen a breakthrough recently. So with Orbán Viktor also being out of the prime ministership, finally Hungary also removed its veto on opening the talks in the first cluster. Of course, there's still some brakes put on the process, and it's not going to be a fast track, still going to be a merit-based process, but definitely it's good news for the Ukraine enlargement process, and Ireland will definitely take that forward. And Moldova coming along with Ukraine, there seems to be a coupling also between these countries still in the current sentiment.
All right, so from enlargement to defense, a big budget. There's going to be lots on the to-do list as of today, of the 1st of July, of the rotating presidency of Ireland. Thanks so much for all that. Really appreciate it, Judit Lantai, democracy and EU affairs expert. Thank you. And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.